Hi, Mr. ASG Hanif. Thank you so much for accepting the interview.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to join you.
Yes, so how does the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs currently assess the global economic growth outlook over the next 12 months looking ahead? And which risks are most relevant for developing economies, including debt volatility and also trade fragmentation?
So the economy is recovering, but it's too slow and too uneven. We forecast a growth rate of 2.5% in 2026, which is significantly lower than the pre-pandemic rate of 3.2%. And this is not sufficient for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. So while developed countries' economies are stabilizing, developing countries are struggling. I want to mention 4 factors which have bearing on this rate of growth. First and foremost, debt. As of now, many developing countries are allocating 10% or more of their revenue to debt servicing payments. And when you are investing in paying interest, you are not building the future. And that is a drag on countries' ability to invest in sustainable development. Second, you just mentioned trade tensions are putting a pressure.
Right.
Although we have avoided the risks that were anticipated in April, but still, if new tariffs are introduced or escalated, it's a risk which is dampening the prospects for growth. Third is youth unemployment. It's in some countries it's as high as 20%, which means 1 in 5 young people are looking for formal jobs, despite the fact they have required education. So unemployment is a risk which countries are confronting with. Then climate shocks have become frequent, intense. They disrupt food supplies, damage infrastructure, and also add to financial burden for recovery.
Right, you mentioned a couple of risks, and I also know financing for development remains a big challenge for many economies. So what practical steps can accelerate affordable and long-term financing for the sustainable development goals, especially for low-income countries' economies?
Actually, as you know, there's a $4 trillion gap per annum to invest in the Sustainable Development Goals, which is huge. But it is not huge when you look at the global financial picture. Global GDP, more than $100 trillion. It's doable. This is 1%. We held a 4th conference on financing for development in Seville in Spain. It has come out with a clear message. You just mentioned sustainable development requires long-term affordable finance and not band-aid solutions. So what does that mean? The Seville commitment has highlighted 3 areas for action. First and foremost, catalyze investment, domestic and international. And that includes both concessional finance from banks like the World Bank, regional development banks, even national public banks. We call them multilateral development banks. Then leverage private capital and mobilize domestic resources too. Second, Seville commitment clearly sends a message: we cannot postpone solutions on debt distress. So there are very specific actions in the Seville commitment, starting from the common framework solutions, architecture, and other areas. Third, Seville commitment says long overdue reform of the international financial architecture, which means access to emergency financing when you are hit by a pandemic or a disaster, and also changes in the governance system, because the current governance structures do not reflect the current political and economic weights of countries. So that's a clear call from the Sevilla commitment. Global financial architecture needs to be updated and brought in line with the current realities.
Thank you so much for mapping out the practical steps that economies could take. So I know debt restructuring process have also received lots of renewed attentions. So what progress have been made toward more predictable and timely sovereign debt solutions, and where is further cooperation are needed among all stakeholders?
Yeah. Actually, that situation, I must say, is a matter of serious concern for developing countries and for the United Nations too. We have issued repeated calls. The Sevilla commitment, and I want to highlight, I mentioned it has a very broader approach. It's not looking for short-term solutions. Let me highlight, for instance, Sevilla commitment has proposed coordinated solutions that are not ad hoc, that are designed to look at countries' challenges and provide them solutions. For instance, with common framework, 3 recommendations. Common framework is the G20 platform, which provides relief. We saw debt relief is working very slowly. It was better before the pandemic. When Chad and Zambia applied, very slow process, took more than a year. I have seen progress in terms of Ghana and Ethiopia, so it's making progress. 3 things are recommended: expedited process, suspend temporarily debt payments when negotiations are going on. Second, secure comparable treatments by the creditors, and that is necessary, and this is right there. And third, coordinated action by all creditors. One piece. 3 other important debt-related commitments in the Sevilla outcome document. First, borrowers' voices should be heard. So there's a decision to create a borrowers' club, borrowers' forum. Action has already started. We had a meeting in October in Washington with the finance ministers. Second, Sevilla platform for debt, which was also launched in Geneva in October. And this is a forum where knowledge sharing, better management of debt, and mutual learning process will be nurtured. Third, we will update the principles of responsible borrowing and lending. We have UN principles, but we want more transparency, more predictability, better evaluation of risks. So what I can say in short, from ad hoc solutions, it's now evolving into a coordinated, equitable, and pro-development system for debt resolution.
Yes, so I can tell that United Nations has taken lots of actions in bridging like the borrowers and the lenders to fill the gap. But I also know that many developing economies are facing a lot of new challenges, such as you just mentioned, unemployment, right? Productivity, demographic shifts, as well as investment capacity. So what policy approaches could help improve long-term growth potential and economic resilience?
This is also a challenge which is becoming acute. So my first request is invest in people, invest in productivity, invest in the planet. Invest in people, it's non-negotiable. Investing in human capital, every dollar invested in human capital is a down payment to future prosperity. Let me explain. If you improve people's skills, give them knowledge of digital technologies, equip them with the right set of educational degrees, and then open opportunities.
Right.
Human capital is critical. Actually, people are the wealth of nations, and we should invest in them. No compromise, no second thought about it.
Through education?
And skills, and job opportunities. Second, productivity. And I must share this data with you, which is disturbing. developing countries' productivity from 2000 to 2007 was 1.2. It has come down to 0.2 between 2011 and 2019. Huge fall in productivity. This is total factor productivity, TPF we call it. In sub-Saharan Africa, it has gone negative. It's a matter of concern which requires attention, immediate attention. So what can be done? It requires structural transformation. Structural transformation, first of all, move into value addition manufacturing, move into services, embrace the latest technologies.
Artificial intelligence.
Yes, but that requires skills, investment in people. So structural transformation is key to enhancing productivity. But I think this should not be delayed, these investments. Countries ask, how do we do it? We'll create space in your budgets for such investment. Raise domestic resources. Invest in people and industry which can help you get out of this bind of commodity exporters. Go into high value production.
So invest in people and equip them with skills, education, and then also just invest in the productivity.
And invest in the planet. If you want to. Look, renewable energy will generate jobs, and China is an example.
Right, the green energy, right?
Yeah. Invest in infrastructure.
Infrastructure also create jobs for people.
Create jobs and communication, transport, industry. So there are investment opportunities. And I also clearly say invest in health. Healthy people means productive population.
And demographic.
Yeah, that's another challenge which requires attention by every government, even those who have young people. Eventually they will become older. This is a triumph of development. It's a success story, but we need to prepare as societies to deal with, we call it the silver economy. Look at the brighter side.
Right. Even we really want to look at the brighter side, but we have to admit that right now, in an era of geopolitical and geoeconomic fragmentation, so which areas do you think present the most feasible opportunities for developing countries to build international cooperation, and how can multilateral mechanisms adapt to deliver practical outcomes?
The world is divided, right? But the challenges are shared, and so are the solutions. Just look at the Sustainable Development Goals in the United Nations 2030 agenda. It still holds many countries together. They are keen to look for solutions on poverty eradication, fighting hunger, giving health access to health facilities, achieving gender equality, education for girls. They all come together. Social protection, creating jobs. So this agenda is still holding the countries together. They also come together, almost all of them, when it comes to fighting climate change. Look at the Belém COP30, the turnout, the commitment to act. So these agreements are still holding people together. I have seen the recently concluded World Summit on Social Development in Doha, the Doha Political Declaration, clearly sends a message: job creation, social inclusion, and societal development are the key. Because investing in people is not social development investment, it's a growth strategy when you include them in the society. So the agenda is bringing countries together, and they're willing to act collectively. UN is here to support and facilitate member states' actions to achieve these goals and come together. So what we need to do is tell the world, if you come together and act, we deliver. So we should have a laser focus on accountability, on impact measurement, and this is where we should all be working together, rebuilding trust in institutions and in multilateralism. Young people are losing that trust. We need to reach out and build it. So fragmented world, shared goals, shared solutions. UN is the place which is rallying them around. And I gave you the example of the Sevilla commitment in July this year, the Doha Political Declaration, Pact for the Future. And Pact for the Future has made a real difference. We were able to provide finance to least developed countries and small and developing states through that Pact of the Future agreement. Similarly, Doha Political Declaration has put social protection, social inclusion, job creation at the heart of the agenda. So we are advancing practical solutions through global engagement.
Yeah, UN kind of like brings other countries together because of the shared goals and shared challenges. Yeah, so looking ahead, how would United Nations assess China's potential role in supporting global development agendas, such as the Sustainable Development Agenda?
China is poised to play a critical role and key role in advancing sustainable development. I will look at it at 3 levels. First is bridging the implementation and financing gap through development cooperation. China's Global Development Initiative, which we call GDI, is already an example. It's aligned with the 2030 Agenda on poverty eradication, on food security, on job creation, on women's empowerment. So through Global Development Cooperation Initiative, or GDI, China can help countries to get the finance they need and have access to technologies which can help them to overcome these challenges, and also move forward by looking at China's example. China is a success story.
Example, right?
Second level is, and that's where comes in technology diffusion, human capital development, institutional development. China can help countries and also offer vocational training, skills to adapt technology to their national context, build institutions which can help them to implement SDG-related projects, SDG-focused outcomes. So that's the second level, which is technology transfer, knowledge sharing, and training people to accelerate sustainable development goals achievement. Third level, where I must say China again has a critical role to play, it's strengthening multilateral cooperation action. And China's initiative on Global Governance Initiative, GGI, where China says UN should be at the center of global governance. So China has a role, and China has so far strongly conveyed its message. It is committed to multilateralism, it is committed to the UN, it is committed to global action. So that is one platform where China needs to strengthen multilateral action, stand up for UN principles and purposes, and through its own global governance initiative, also improve governance globally, which we know needs revamping.